back, rivals. This is Xonia, and you are in the zone. Today, I'd like to show you a little bit about the new RB card. So, Otome Rb was just released this last week. I believe it was on Wednesday. And a lot of people are running to get her missions done, but some of her missions are actually quite difficult. So today, I just wanted to show you the decks that I've been using. I'm actually almost done with all of her missions. And my daughter is very excited about that. So, if we go over here, you can find her missions here in the new missions bar under the main clan missions. Here, if you go down to Feng Pai Clang, you can scroll down here, and they're going to be a Real Man, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there are 5 total ones. Real Man 5 is 200 damage with Ray in tourney mode. Real Man 4, 25 fights with a KO with Yoshida in Survivor. Okay, Real Man 3, 25 rounds with Bangle and ELO. Real Man 2 is 100 damage with Khan in any mode. And Real Man 1 is gain 50 life with the FPC. So out of all of these, Real Man 1, 50 life points is very easy to do with FPC. No problem there. Real Man 2, 100 damage with Khan. The biggest issue is going to be the cost of Khan. As a new blood, and people have bought a lot of him in order to try and make a profit off of him right now, it might cost you a pretty penny just to get a hold of Khan in the first place if you can't afford packs. Real Man 3 is actually not as bad as I thought it would be originally. 25 rounds with Bangle and ELO mode, and I'll explain why a bit later. Okay, Real Man 4, 25 fights with a KO from Yoshida in Survivor mode. This one was by far the most difficult and hardest one of the missions for me. Yes, I'm going to show you a couple of the decks I used, and then a Real Man 5, 200 damage with Ray and tourney. Alright, first, let's take a look at some decks. The first one I want to show you is for Real Man 1, which is your plus life deck. Okay, when we're looking at plus life, there are some main cards in FPC that you're going to want to get a hold of in order to do this deck. The best possible deck I think you could make is Bengal, Ichiko, Kamekun, Khan, Kusuri, Ramar, Steven Don, and Zhu Tang. Bengal is basically in there because you're going to need to buy him later anyway. And also, the main goal here with the plus life is going to be that the ones that you want to actually win with, which are going to be Steven Don, Zhu Tang, and Ramar, you're going to want to force other people to pill. So Bengal is really good because with 9 power, protection power, and damage, they're not going to be able to reduce him, and he's going to be a threat that people are going to probably pill against. Second, Ichiko, again, with reprisal -2, that's going to be able to bring pretty much anyone underneath you if they don't have attack manipulation. Kamekun, again, +1 attack per life left is going to force opponents to pill over him. No matter what they have, Kamekun is going to have more attack, and that's going to help him win overall. Khan is going to be your first plus life card. All you have to do is lose with him. No problem. That's awesome. Very easy. And you're going to be using him in one of the other missions. So we're trying to get as much use out of Khan as we possibly can, as well as Bangle and the other cards. Kusuri, again, all you have to do is lose with her. Easy +2 life. Ramar is Kill Shot. While Kill Shot is not the best, normally you can go all in with Ramar on the round 1 and guarantee at least +4 life. The reason you're going to want to use Ramar is because with +4, that's quite a bit. And so if you don't have one of your other Feng Pai Clang cards that has plus life on it, with Ramar you're still going to be able to get +4, which is quite a lot. Steven Don is going to be your highlight card. Like, this is the card that you really want to draw most of all. Steven Don, go in, Fury with him, and just go all in on round 1, and that's going to probably get you +10 life, which is absolutely awesome. Help you get through the +50 life very quickly. And then Zhu Tang is, again, ban and ELO, but since you can do this in any mode, in tourney, it's going to be really helpful. With the +1 life per damage, again, you can just Fury him for +6 life, helping this mission go very, very quickly. So for those of you that cannot afford this kind of deck, let me show you a different deck that you can use, which will allow you to combine all of the cards that you're going to have to buy, or almost all of the cards, minus Yoshida, for this kind of mission. If you want to try and get all of Real Man 1, 2, 3, and 5 done, then I recommend Bengal, Futoshi LD, Ichiko, Kamekun, Khan, Kusuri, Rei, and Shifu. Then, if you absolutely must and you want to keep it at a minimum, you could also go into Survivor ELO and replace Khan with Yoshida. However, I would not recommend necessarily doing that because getting the KO in Survivor T1 is not as easy as Survivor T2, and this is already going to be hard enough for that one. if you're doing this for a Real Man 1, then you're really only going to have Khan and Kusuri in order to get those plus life. The second one is to do 100 damage with Khan. The best way to do that is to just go into tourney again and then Khan full pill round 1 with Fury. You'll be able to do 10 damage. Yeah, you're not going to win, but that's okay because you're just trying to get the mission done. And that'll allow you to finish up Khan's 100 damage in only 10 rounds. Please be careful of DR though, because if they throw DR, then you're in trouble. In other words, you're going to want to throw cards like Kame-kun or Bengal first to force them to pill a bit, or try and use their DR and try and lure those out so that you can then throw Khan for full at the end. For Real Man 3, you're going to need to go into ELO. And the reason it's actually not difficult to win rounds with Bengal in ELO is because of his 9 power. What I've found is that a lot of people are going to be using FPC, or, they use other things as well. And if they only have 7 power, if all of your opponent's cards only have 7 power, then you can afford to pill up to 2 in general with Kame-kun on round 1, and still guarantee with Bengal on round 2. So your goal in ELO is going to be to win with Bengal no matter what. That means calculating exactly how much you need to guarantee a win with Bengal versus your opponent, and then checking to see how many pills you can play on either Kame-kun or Shifu or even Khan on round 1. Usually, because of his 9 power, you can still play 1 additional pill on Kame-kun or Khan or Shifu. So, I really recommend doing it this way. Are you going to get a lot of wins? Probably not. But if you don't mind it, then you can go ahead and do this anyway, and you will guarantee that 1 round win with Bengal. Now, actually doing it this way, I was able to, even when I didn't draw Bengal, stop at about 1100 ELO after I got my 25 wins. I started at 1000, and I was able to climb my way up to 1100. So I really recommend using this way. Even though it might hurt your ELO score, if you wait for the beginning of the week in order to do this, then it doesn't matter if you climb up again from 0. At least for those of you who have enough skill that you're not too worried about the lower levels of ELO anymore. At that point, all you really need to do is ensure that you win with Bengal, and that can be done very easily because of his 9 power. So ultimately, the win with Bengal missions are really not that hard. And then finally, for Real Man 5, you have to do 200 damage with Ray in turn 2. I'm probably going to be using this deck right here. Again, it really doesn't matter. You don't need anything special with Ray. The main job, or the main idea here is just going to be go in with Ray and then all in Fury as many times as you can until you finally finish all the matches with Ray. By doing this, you're able to use Bengal, Ray, and Khan in 4 out of the 5, which means that even though it's going to cost you a lot, you're not going to have to make a whole lot of decks for those of you that are on a budget. Of course, if you have more, actually when I went into ELO, I substituted out Ichiko for Marlesia CR, and I substituted, who was my other one? I substituted Ray for Elia CR, actually, putting a little bit more risk in there for 1 extra damage, and I still found that it worked extremely well. Last, let me show you what I did for my Survivor decks. So Real Man 4 is going to require 25 wins with Yoshida in Survivor, so let me show you my Survivor decks. Okay, Rivals, as far as the 4th mission is concerned, I actually first started with a full FPC deck. And believe it or not, that worked out absolutely horribly. It was not a good idea. It didn't get me a lot of KOs. I ran into a lot of troubles, particularly against the high DR style deck and lots of attack manipulation, because actually a lot of the really good Fangpai Clang 5 stars do not have anything to really help them deal with attack manipulation. So let me show you the 2 decks that I settled on. The first deck that I tried was a Fangpai Clang and Uppers deck, along with Amber. Now the reason that you want to have Amber in here is specifically for Yoshida. Even though a lot of these cards will not actually benefit much from Amber, Yoshida will, because Yoshida becomes a 10-6 with -2 op power. That is an extremely powerful type of card. If you can combine that as well with someone like Herman plus Amber, that's going to put you in an extremely good position in order to be able to KO your opponent, especially if you're going first. And especially since all your cards except for Jackie are going to go ahead and allow you that option. Now what I tended to do in order to get these KOs was I would lead with Khan if I had Khan. and I would play Khan with about 5 or 6 pills, depending on my opponent. Usually 5 if there was no attack manip and it was just other FPC, because a lot of people were not willing to go in to 50, especially if I had Amber. So I think Khan is a very good Khan on your first round. Following that up with Yoshida was usually no trouble, and with a lot of SOB like Hefty, or with SOB like Hefty, and cards like Herman to force your opponent to pull over you, and all of the attack manipulation that Uppers offers, this deck managed to get me probably about 10 of my 25 KOs. I went all FPC for the first 5 and just had so much trouble. I just hated it. I then decided to switch to this deck. But ultimately, I decided to settle on one more, and the reason was because even though this deck is great, it doesn't make it quite as easy for you when you run into high-level DR, the common Uranus and Grax combo that you're going to see. And that helped me settle on my final, which I believe this to be one of the best combinations to help you get those KOs for Survivor. Khan, Nekarembo, Yoshida, Amber, Dracora, Emperor Sloan, Rex Swig, and Wild. Now I realize that for those of you new players, this is going to be a deck that you're probably not going to be able to afford. So hopefully, even uppers you won't be able to afford, I would just say you're probably going to have to make an FPC deck, and then try to add some kind of whatever the best cards are you have with attack manipulation to force your opponent to pill. But ultimately you're going to want this Yoshida-Amber type combo. Remember, you don't need Yoshida to have her bonus, you just need to get the KO. With this, you're offered a very unique way of, or several different ways of KOing. First, whenever you run into those nasty DR, you've always got Dracora there. Dracora is going to be able to cancel the attack manipulation of all the uppers you're going to run into, and then is going to be able to kill shot for 6, meaning you're still going to do 7 damage versus them, which is usually enough to set up Yoshida with or without her bonus for a KO. And especially if you have Amber, Yoshida is just going to eat through your opponent. Additionally, there's one other way, which I found to be a lot of fun that you can win with this deck, and it's a first round all-in with Yoshida, followed up with a loss by Wild. Wild is the most amazing 4-star card in this little combination, because Wild will give you that defeat -2 min 0. Yoshida is then able to hit 10 if she Furies, and between the two you're going to be able to do 12 damage. The problem is some of the opponents you face might have already gotten to a win streak of 3, which means they'll have 13 life. So please be careful that you don't try this combination against an opponent with 13 or more life. They must have 12. The other problem is that since you're only running 3 Fang Pai Clang, you might not always get Yoshida's bonus, which means that you won't be able to Fury KO with Yoshida. For 10, you'll only be getting 8, which means that you have to win another round. However, with cards like Emperor Sloan and Rex Swig in your deck, you're also going to be able to come up against pretty much anything else. Emperor Sloan is going to be able to take on cards like Jackie CR. Rex Swig as well, if you outpill Jackie well enough. Wild has that extra defeat if you're close but not quite there. Khan will give you defeat as well for backup since you don't really have any DR. Nekarembo, the reason I chose Nekarembo was simply because I had a plus life mission. You could very easily swap out Nekarembo for someone like, say, Tameshi. He would actually probably be a little bit better. However, it didn't really matter to me, and I find cards like Nekarembo to be much better when you only have 12 life, because then someone with Kolos, if you threaten with your first round Nekarembo, they might try to go all in with Kolos, because they know they won't get that one-hit KO once you add 2 life to your amount. So I found that Nekarembo did serve me well in certain situations, and of course helped me out with my additional life in Survivor missions that I was trying to finish up at the time. So between this, I think all of the cards in this deck really made it much easier for me, I would say, once I was able to actually draw Yoshida. And I also found that I drew Yoshida more often with this deck combination than other ones. I don't know about you, but maybe you've noticed some decks tend to yield certain cards more often than others. Well, I don't know if it's technically true, it certainly does feel that way. And for me, this deck allowed me to draw Yoshida more than I felt like the other decks did, though obviously, YMMV, your mileage may vary. So, these are my recommended decks for those of you that are trying to finish these. Oh, and the one last thing I didn't say was, again, I think it's pretty obvious to me, but T2 Survivor is going to be easier to get that KO in than T1 Survivor. Even though you're going to have higher amounts of DR in the T2 as opposed to the T1, I still feel like you're going to be able to have a lot more damage output, and it allows for trickier KOs. For example, when someone tries to play DR against you, and you can actually Fury for the win with Yoshida on round 2. Anyway, guys, I really hope this helps you with some of the missions. I was able to finish mission 4 in about, I'm just making a rough estimate here, maybe 4 to 5 hours. It did take me quite a lot of time. And probably half the time I didn't draw Yoshida. But with these decks, I was able to hit my maximum win streak of 7 in a row. So this deck isn't that bad, actually. It's not going to help carry you in later rounds, and you'll notice there isn't a lot of DR, and you definitely want that in a better kind of survive deck. However, what we really want for this deck, since we're trying to get KOs with Yoshida more than trying to get a long win streak, is to make sure that every single card we draw gives us an opportunity to KO with it, with Yoshida. And so we don't want any DR that will possibly yield less damage, because we want to make sure we get that KO. So don't get stuck between thinking you need to make a good deck. What you really need is a deck that will KO and complement Yoshida the best it will. And this deck, with the other half being Raptors, is what I found personally to be the best half to pair with a Yoshida Thing Pai Clang half deck. So again, I hope this helps you guys out. Why don't we go ahead and play now? I've got my other deck over here playing around with it. Why don't we go ahead and head in now to tourney, and I will go ahead and show you the last. So I'll put it on 8 times speed now, and enjoy watching the last few matches I do and how I kind of play in order to finish these out. Thanks again for watching, Rivals. If you like this video, then don't forget to like it, and if you really liked it, don't forget to share it with your friends. And finally, don't forget to subscribe for more of my Urban Rivals videos. This is Xonia, and you've been in the zone.